Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Good Art Friends, where good friends discuss good art. Jonathan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. It is fall. The great tasting things are in stores again.
Have you started? What great tasting things have you partaken in?
So there's a local coffee shop that makes my favorite fall drink, and it is the cider. It is cider with spiced chai inside of it.
That does
and
sound
it's
good.
Perfect.
Yeah, I've been meaning. I like Bull City cider around here, and they have a pumpkin cider that I've been meaning to try out.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. There's a kind of cider donut cider from, was it 1911 or something like that, which I got this week. Yeah, I'm all in. All of them. Give me the pumpkin coffees, all the.
Yes, we got Oktoberfest going on right now. I had a really good one over the weekend. Highland Brewing has Clawhammer back in. I'm really sad that Big Boss isn't making beer right now because Harvest Time.
Harvest Time is the best. That and it was Southern Tier or something.
Yes,
that was a good.
Pumpkin.
The Pumpkin and the Imperial. But yeah, the Harvest Time was the best.
Yeah, and
come back.
I need small tangent. So Big Boss, their whole shtick was really like hard work, like manual labor, like hard hat kind of work.
Yeah.
And the tag was handle your business. If you got a 6-pack of bottles, on the box you would get a little cutout on the bottom, which would have a title on it, and you could cut it out and like put it on your desk or something, and you said, "This is my title." But I also loved their branding in general. So for the beers, they would have like a checkbox. They would have 2 checkboxes on there, and it'd be like opposites. And for Harvest Time, the 2 boxes were reap or sow.
That was good. Yeah, that was great. Big Operator was great.
Mm-hmm.
Raspberry, it was a stout or something. Yeah.
Angry Angel was my favorite.
That was a good one too. Yeah. It's very, of our 3 listeners, I don't know how many of them are connecting with this. They might come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, as of now, defunct Raleigh Brewery.
Yeah. I hope so. Please come back. We love you.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. Okay, so today we're going to talk about comics, but first we got the Miyazaki Minute for Howl's Moving Castle. This was actually the first Miyazaki movie that I had seen. You had taken to me. So this is my second time watching it. I watched it with my daughters. Actually, both of them watch this with me. I had 2 thoughts. We'll talk in non-spoilers for anybody that haven't seen it, but if you haven't seen it, it's wonderful. I thought it was interesting in relation to our last episode on 2 fronts. One being the last Miyazaki movie we saw was Kiki's Delivery Service. And it was a similar setting in some ways, this idyllic village with great transit, delightful bakery during wartime. Yeah. But all the like nefarious elements were just cranked up in this in a way that they were subdued with Kiki's. The war is much more present, where it's like the subtext in Kiki's Delivery Service and all that, you know? And also I thought about it in relation to the Black Parade, because just the melodrama of Howl, I thought was like perfect. And it felt like he was a My Chemical Romance character. Just him like, I'm not beautiful anymore and all that, you know?
Only what's cares the point about of living? Being beautiful.
Yes. But yeah, it's a great movie. I love it.
Calcifer is A1.
Calcifer is, yes, one of the better characters in all of cinema.
I never knew that I needed a Billy Crystal playing a talking flame who eats eggshells.
Yes. Oh, and also, I don't know, have you ever read anything by V.E. Schwab, Victoria Schwab? The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is her most famous. It's wonderful. But I just finished reading her trilogy, The Shades of Magic, which is really cool. It's this idea of like, there's 4 different Londons kind of stacked on top of each other, each with different relationships with magic, some of which is embraced, some of which it's fought, some of it's like they don't realize that it's a thing. And the character Kel in that is kind of based off of Howl, and he has this magical code and all these kind of things there. So it's neat for that connection too. But yeah, if you haven't V. Schwab, everything she's written, but the Shades of Magic in particular.
Awesome.
But yeah, so Howl's Moving Castle, wonderful. The Scarecrow, Calcifer, just so inventive. The doors, and to the different ones there. I love everything about this movie. It's great.
It's great. It really is. It's a journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have a request. So this month, so by the time this airs, it'll already be out, but I'm really excited for Zelda. What's it called?
I'm not remembering the name of it, but yes, it's great. I just love the fact that the game is Zelda.
Yeah. You get to play as Zelda. So that makes me want to watch, though. Is it Princess Mononoke? Is that
Princess Mononoke.
Yes. Yeah. So can I watch that one next? Permission.
Absolutely.
As my
oh my
Miyazaki,
gosh, I love Princess
mentor.
Mononoke. So the deal about this is that Princess Mononoke falls into the same category as Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, in that Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli are really great at these slice of life movies. Like you have the ones that are like My Neighbor Totoro, which is like almost nothing happens.
Yes.
And then you have Howl's Moving Castle, which is like, it's still like a little more gentle, but it has like stuff happening. And then you have straight up war movies. Like,
okay,
Princess
there are
Mononoke.
a few.
Yeah.
There's one with the pigs flying, I
Porco
think.
Rosso, yes.
That might be towards the back end of the...
Yeah. But Princess Mononoke and Nausicaa are straight up war movies.
Okay, we'll see how my kids hang in for these ones.
They're not going to enjoy it off rip. It's gonna be a little unsettling from the start.
Okay, well, you know what? This one might be just for me, and that's fine. And part of being a parent is realizing, you have to carve out stuff just for you. So, sorry, Eva and Indy. Okay, but we're going to talk about comics then.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so before getting into Ultimate Spider-Man specifically, which is the comic that we'll be reading this month. So again, 1 through 6 is going to be covered. This first half of the episode, no spoilers, just kind of context, some general comic talk. Then we'll pause, and then so y'all can go out, read the first 6 issues, and then we'll come back and talk about it. First 6 issues are available on trade paperback or through Marvel Unlimited, by the way. But first, just general comics talk. What are some of your... What's your relationship with comics first, actually?
It's weird. So I got introduced to comics as a kid by my brother Sam, and he is a very big Spider-Man fan.
Okay.
Of course, I too became a very big Spider-Man
older
fan.
brother,
Yeah. And then I got into playing the Marvel Versus series, which, by the way, we're recording this on September 9th. I honestly might take Friday off of work because the Marvel Versus Capcom Fighting Collection is coming out.
Yeah.
Marvel 2 is going to be on servers for everyone to play, and I need to dish out some work to a lot of people who don't understand that I have been in the lab in this game for so long.
Who do you play with?
My team is Venom, Captain Commando, and Jen. Venom hits really hard. Captain Commando is I didn't really realize until recently when I've been watching a lot of videos that Capcom, as he is he's an S tier character mainly because his assists and he has a lot of range. I just love Capcom because when his taunt, because it's a fighting game, you can taunt. His taunt, he puts on a cowboy hat and he strums a guitar, but he doesn't put any fingers on the string, so it's just an open chord.
Just open EADGB.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sound.
Yes, and every time
maybe just drop D or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and every time I win with him, instead of letting him do his victory, if he does a victory pose that I don't care for, I just hit the taunt button and just strum the guitar. But yeah, I used to read the Sunday comics as a kid in the newspaper, and of course you weren't really getting any Marvel stuff. When I was younger, in the 90s, you'd get Garfield and Peanuts, and then before it came classic Peanuts after Charles Schultz passed away. And you would get a Family Circus and The Wizard of Ed, and things like that. So I didn't really read book comics for a long time. Okay, that's mine. And our ages are a little bit different. So I was born in 84. I'm a little bit older than you. And I grew up at a time when I loved comics and superheroes, but it wasn't yet
cool to do so, you know? Like I remember being so excited for those first few Spider-Man movies, and it's starting to get like more justified, but you know, and the Spider-Man the animated series and the X-Men the animated series, like those are what really pulled me into like the geekdom entirely. And then I started kind of getting comics little by little. And I really remember it was actually my freshman year in college. I was at Boston University, and there's a great comic book shop down the street. And so this would have been like 2002. And I remember picking up and reading religiously the Brian Michael Bendis, those Ultimate Spider-Man. So kind of, I was pulled into that Ultimate universe pretty early on. So what are some of your favorite comics that you've read since?
So I use Marvel Unlimited. And with Marvel Unlimited, you get the Infinity comics.
Oh, yeah.
So I get to read Double Dinosaur.
That's wonderful.
And it's Jeff.
Yes, it's Jeff. Have you read, I think I've mentioned to you, the Avengers Academy by Anthony Oliveira?
I need to get to that.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's heart-moving. It's incredibly gay. It's just all of it. I highly recommend it. You'll love it. It's a really good series on the Infinite Comics. Yeah.
In my life since like the everything, my habits of consuming media shifted a little bit. It became more of watching things, because like before I would have a routine where I would just like settle in and read. So I got away from reading. I got Unlimited, and then I was like reading stuff, and I got away from that for a while. But what I was reading, and I was getting from the library during the pandemic, Hawkeye, Matt Fraction's run.
Yep.
And then you get... I started reading Young Avengers.
Yeah, Kieron Gillen.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful series.
Let's see. I have my Unlimited next to me, so I can... All right. So, of course, like I was reading Spider-Man. And for me, Venom is one of my favorite villains.
Yeah.
So I started reading Unlimited Maximum Carnage.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. And then I started reading Ultimate Spider-Man, the 2001 run.
Okay.
Which is just so weird to think about.
Yes.
To read something from 2001 that is going to go through the major event that happens later in the year.
Yep.
And it's so weird, just like how the perspective of like so many things changed around there, and then like having to somehow address it in comics. But like for me,
true.
It's so weird for me because I love Spider-Man. But if you love Spider-Man, you have to deal with early Spider-Man figuring out how to be a hero, and he sucks sometimes as a person.
Yes. Yeah, and that's part of... Actually, we'll get to that in a few when we start talking about this run. But yeah. And if I can just share and geek out over some of my favorite runs. Yeah, the Hawkeye is on there. I really like the Miss Marvel. In fact, I just picked one up from a local comic book store that opened up in Fuquay Varina, which is pretty cool. That Miss Marvel G. Willow Wilson run is wonderful. Chip Zdarsky, his Daredevil run recently is incredible. Kelly Sue DeConnick did this Wonder Woman Historia series that kind of goes into like mythology, which is great. Anything from Alan Moore is weird and wonderful. You know, from Hell, Killing Joke, from Hell, Killing Joke. You know, Watchmen, of course, it's great. And then current stuff. Ryan North's Fantastic Four is incredible and hilarious, and taps into like the like aw shucks goodness of the like this family of superheroes without it being too cheesy. I really recommend that. Saga by Brian Vaughan. He's been writing that for a while, and that's just started re-releasing. Yeah, those are some of the ones. And I read all the X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
All the time.
So what's very funny here is that we've talked about the comics that we've read, and we've mentioned basically solely everything from one company, which is Marvel.
I got Wonder Woman in there.
Yeah.
You know, Elmore, Saga. But yes, and part of that is just, I also have Marvel Unlimited, so it's just so much easier.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, like, for me, and I've always thought about why do I like Marvel more than DC? And it's weird because, like, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite Marvel heroes and, like, for the reasoning for it. like I really love Daredevil, right?
Oh, I'm thinking mine's gonna be the same, but go on.
Yeah, because like he's more or less a dude, but like he has like the common thread here is that there are people that somewhat have like disabilities. Like Daredevil, of course, is blind, and is a lawyer in his day job.
Yeah.
And then you have Hawkeye, which like I really appreciate in the Matt Fraction run, and then in the show that ran on Netflix that they finally addressed the fact that that Clint is hard of hearing.
Yeah, the hearing stuff. That was on Disney Plus at that point. But yeah.
Because like, a lot of times like, in the first MCU and the Avengers, like they don't really talk about it, and then like they retcon it in the show, and when he explains like why, and then they show like all the explosions. He has different backgrounds of it.
Yeah.
But like I really enjoy like a lot of the Marvel heroes because like they're either like dudes, gender neutral.
There are a few ladies.
Yes.
Yeah. There's Squirrel Girl's wonderful. Actually, that was also Ryan North. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, dudes gender neutral.
Yeah.
That just like that become powered.
Yes.
And then for DC, it's a little more gritty, and it feels like super powered people.
Yeah, and that's so similar. I was going to say, because I also love Daredevil. I also love Miss Marvel, Spider-Man. I like the street level stories, and all those are kind of there. Now, there are some galactic kind of runs in Marvel, but I feel like Marvel does street level really well, whereas DC does more of that intergalactic kind of stuff, which is wonderful. Like N.K. Jemisin did a really cool Green Lantern series a few years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of gravitate towards those grounded street level stories.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of brings us to Ultimate Spider-Man and why I've really been enjoying it, and I'm recommending for you and our listeners just that it goes back to that just simple Spider-Man story, and by virtue of the reset. So just some context here. So the original Ultimate Universe was like 2000 to 2015. Like I mentioned, Brian Michael Bendis' incredible Spider-Man run. There's some really neat stuff with the Ultimates. X-Men got weird. Ultimate X-Men, there was some weird stuff there. Yeah. But the idea, like, it was this kind of like simplified. You have in the main comic runs that you have just all this backstory. Sometimes it feels like homework, and you have all these characters. So the idea of just resetting to a simpler universe can be appealing. But then, of course, over the course of 15 years, it's almost like Microsoft Excel. Every year they add another feature until the toolbar kind of thing covers 3/4 of the screen.
Yeah.
Then they realized they just recreated the whole thing with Ultimate Universe. And then so it collapsed with Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars. But really only like Miles Morales moved over. The Maker, who I won't mention who he is in case people want to read, but is a really cool villain. He kind of comes over. And then you just have the main Marvel run. But just in last year, you have Ultimate Invasion 1 through 4 by Jonathan Hickman, and also this Ultimate Universe. And I won't spoil the context for those that want to read it, but essentially it's just creates a universe where the Maker is holding on to a power and preventing people from stopping him by preventing superheroes from getting their powers in the first place.
Yes.
So he's stopping Spider-Man from getting bit and all these other things there. And then you have Tony Stark trying to relaunch these superheroes in order to fight against this tyrannical, the Maker, and this collection of power.
Enemy number one of Miguel.
Yes. And that's the thing is like, I like the Spider-Verse stories and stuff like that. The Spider-Punk by Cody Ziglar, that series has been wonderful. But there's something nice about this Ultimate Spider-Man that it's Peter, and he's married to MJ, and he's actually happy. They never let Peter be happy. He's got kids, and it's, there's the domestic stuff that's like, sometimes it feels masochistic being a Spider-Man fan. So it's nice just this world where it's like, he's doing okay.
Yeah. His
life isn't a mess. Well, it is, but in a way that is a little bit more relatable.
Yeah.
And there isn't 37 spider people. And so I'm enjoying so far the simplified nature of the story. I mean, that's even kind of echoed in some of the art, where the art is kind of simplified down, but there's complexity in both the story, but the seeds that they're planting. Because, I mean, it's Jonathan Hickman. He's always planning out 37 issues ahead.
Yeah.
But also the art too will do some really creative things where they'll have the like very prototypical kind of grid of boxes, but then characters will like break out of those boxes in ways that are really metaphorical. So it's simple yet complex in a way that comics can be, but it's accessible in a way that sometimes comics aren't. You know. So yeah, that's my pitch.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about this, something that really jogged my memory while we're talking about this and getting into it. That one of the first things that you and I bonded over as friends was you introduced me to the book The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay.
Oh yeah, wonderful.
Which is
Chabon.
Another book about comics. I mean, it's a book about people, but also about comics. And it's very fun that we're about to do an episode on comics now.
Yeah, that is. It's full circle. I like it. Okay, you excited to read the first 6 issues?
I can't wait.
Okay.
I'm always excited to have a reason to sit down and read something.
Yeah, these are good. They're well written. They're beautifully illustrated. Yeah. So we'll pause here. Everybody read the first 6 issues. Then we'll come back and we'll talk in spoilers about 1 through 6.
Yes.
All right. Let's do it. All right, and we're back. 6 issues in. All right, what do you think?
Oh man, this was delightful. It was so much fun to look at Spider-Man from a different point of view.
Speak on that. What point of view? Like what in particular?
I mean, just the fact of him becoming Spider-Man later in life. So I first became aware of this run online when I saw people talking about it, and they had singled out the panel from the first issue, which I didn't realize that it was going to happen in the first issue. I thought it was going to be one of those situations where it's like Peter is just going through his life and we get to see just like normal Peter for a while, and then he realizes, oh wait, I should actually be Spider-Man. Let me go become Spider-Man. But no, it happens in the first issue, which gives us the iconic "Go Get 'em, Tiger" moment.
Classic, always.
I love that so much. But it's also remembering the context of the world that this New York. It is New York, right? Yes. I have to, sometimes there's comics where like it's New York, but it's not New York. And I forget, like, it's DC.
DC does, you can kind of like map on Gotham as sort of this.
Yeah.
Metropolis is, it gets, Haven, I think is the one. Yeah, it's hard to map on. So you'll see some. But yeah, I mean, Marvel essentially just everything is New York, except for when they did the West Coast Avengers. But do wish that Marvel would give me a Raleigh comic,
Yeah. And then like Daredevil literally exists in Hell's Kitchen. But you have this post-apocalyptic New York, but not in the way that you think, in the way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is set up.
Yeah.
Because you have like the Battle for New York, which the Hawkeye series on Netflix picks up after that.
Yep.
But here we have the attack on New York framed by the Maker, which frames Tony Stark. And it was funny, like seeing him referenced as a terrorist later in there. We'll get to that. But then you start to realize as we get into issue 4 or 5, when Pete meets the Green Goblin, who just exists. Then when he becomes unmasked, it clicked in my head. Like, it was surprising when I'm like, oh, but yeah, of course it's gonna be Harry Osborn.
Yep.
Right? But it was also fun to see the Shocker show up, because like he's like a mid-tier villain. Yeah. He's a mid-tier villain. C-list. Yeah. But also,
if the Shocker was a celebrity, which celebrity would he be?
Almost looks like Chris Evans.
But Chris Evans is too. So who's a celebrity that almost looks like Chris Evans?
Oh, I don't know. But like he's, I don't know, Richard Kind, maybe? He's having a resurgence right now.
Yeah, Only Murders in the... Yeah, he's in that. I'm just now, every time I see the Shocker, I'm going to think about that. we get Bullseye too.
Yeah.
We get the sprinkling in, and of course, Kingpin for the villain.
Yes.
The maker behind it, the maker, spoilers if you haven't read other of the new Ultimate, but is evil Reed Richards, going back from the old ones there.
I did forget that was him.
Yeah. Well, they don't really show it to you here. They give you enough of that, like Kingpin says that he's, the representative, and also suggests that he's not okay with just being the representative. But I am curious how this will coalesce with the other Ultimate series. But I cut you off. Sorry. So you're saying what you?
No, but just entirely beautiful watching Peter get punked by the Shocker, not once,
yes,
but twice.
Just falling for his legs and all that. Yeah. And then Peter's, and they're just, I love the foil that they're setting up between Peter and Harry, because Peter is very naive, whereas Harry is quite cynical.
Yeah.
Peter is very willing to kind of let these guys go, whereas Harry is, keeping Bullseye and stripping him of his exoskeleton in his lab and stuff like that. And they're partnered right now, but you can see the issues in which Harry's ends justify the means is going to be problematic.
So issue 3, 4, we get the double date.
That was 4. And I was going to ask, what's your favorite issue?
I read them so fast, they kind of blurred together. Favorite issue, though, I really do think it's probably issue 2. I think the first issue of him being Spider-Man. Because we had this conversation directly after, because I love I love the way that the Spider-Man story always hits specific flavor notes. Across the Spider-Verse, it's a canon event. But Mary Jane asking Peter if he's been working out.
That's good.
That's a beautiful note.
And what do you like the beard on Peter?
It's a good beard. It works for him. It's so fun to see Peter as an adult, because we don't often get adult Spider-Man. We usually get a cross between teenage Spider-Man, and when we do get adult Spider-Man, like, everything is wrong in his life.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for saying that. That's something that I love about this, is that we get adult Spider-Man, adult Peter, I should say, whose life is not a dumpster fire. And that's something that I really like about this, that Hickman's giving us a simplified Spider-Man that doesn't have some of the baggage that just had to come through decades upon decades of continuity.
Yeah.
I think that's a plus, and that's what the Ultimate line can kind of do, that they can give you all the things that they had to pull away and pull back from the readers before. Like, there was a point where they were going to let, like, during the Clone Saga, which was supposed to be like 3 issues, but stretched into like 3 years. It was going to be Peter was going to have kids with MJ and be happy and kind of go off in the sunset, and then his clone, Ben Reilly, I think it is. Yeah, was going to, like, essentially take the mantle, but then they're like, "Ooh, we can't do that," so they got him get divorced, and then a mysterious miscarriage, or the baby may have been stolen or something. Yeah. So all these ways in which they just, like, mess with readers because you have to, because of all the continuity and editorial demands between, 1, the Ultimate line being simplified, and 2, you got Jonathan fucking Hickman, so that he can kind of probably has some clout.
Yeah.
It's just a nice simplified story, which I like, because, I enjoy the mainline Spider-Man. I know Zeb Wells, who was writing it before, wasn't always the most popular, but there's just a lot. There's like 37 Spider-Men, Spider people.
Spider-Man.
And there's just a lot that goes with it. And that can be cool. Like, there's a series that was just announced at Comic-Con coming up, the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, where he's going to get your cat's attacking me. Doctor Doom becomes the Sorcerer Supreme, and Doctor Doom's got like outsourced to Peter or to Spider-Man like some kind of job. So Spider-Man's going to get some of this like magic powers and stuff like that, and that's cool and complex and huge. Or like you mentioned, the Spider-Verse, be it the movies or the comics, like Cody Ziglar writes a great Spider-Punk. Like all the ways that Spider-Man can get big is great, but it's also wonderful having this just simplified, stripped down, just street level story. Classic Peter versus Kingpin.
Yes,
and I love that about this.
I do like on the topic of Kingpin. I always love whenever they are always explicit about how much of a mountain Kingpin is.
Yeah. And we should, Marco Checchetto, I might be mispronouncing his name, sorry if so, but who's doing the art behind this, the penciling, he draws him perfectly because he's got to be a tank, but, he's got some curves too, which I respect. And that's a delicate, a line to walk, but the art is, they nail it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I am so excited for Daredevil to come back on Netflix next year. Yeah. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Well, it'll be on Disney Plus, but the Netflix one.
Yes. Like that series. Yeah. Vincent D'Onofrio is really good as Kingpin. But also, like, I think my favorite visual representation of Kingpin so far, I mean, in recent memory, was Into the Spider-Verse. He is just a rectangle.
Yeah, you can cut your finger on his like chin, and all that. Yeah,
I do love like how imposing Kingpin is. The Marvel writers can do such a good job, and they turn Kingpin into just this really terrifying villain. And the fact that like he has so much physical power, but he also has so much soft power, and he's willing to use that first.
And again, and this is why I tend to, and we talked about this in the first part, I like street level stories because you can wrap your head around the horror of the Kingpin in a way that I have trouble wrapping my head around
the Riddler.
Well, no, even that. I was going to say these intergalactic kind of, the King and Black symbiotes, or the Thanos kind of level. Those, there's something to be said for those stories, but it's then hard to sometimes tell a cool, middling superhero learning how to, web sling versus this crime lord, and it's just nice to have that story here. And at some point, and people listening, because I'm 3 months back, because we're reading on Marvel Unlimited, and we want to make sure this was out when the trade came out and stuff. I'm curious how this is going to kind of get into the Ultimates and tie into Ultimate Black Panther. And we were talking before recording about the X-Men, just how wild and wonderful and creative that is. How they're all going to kind of merge. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm remembering now, and something I wanted to touch on when you were talking about Harry and his personalities on the double date when
which is my favorite issue, by the way.
Yes.
Number 4.
Yeah. With Gwen showing up saying, sorry, things got complicated. I'm like, that is exactly what's happening here. Everything's complicated. But it was beautiful to watch Harry and Gwen interact. Yeah. See how well they bounce off of each other. Yeah. And then later on, when they break into the Stark facility, and Gwen is like, Otto, because Octavius is there.
Yeah.
He needs a new NDA with teeth. And I'm like, oh, so she is just as strong as Harry is here. And like, these two deserve each other. I love it.
Yeah. And that issue is fan. When was the last time you read a comic, like a mainstream, big 2 comic that was just a double date,
It's been so long. Although, like, I did read Young Avengers.
That's all just relationship. That Kieron Gillen, which one? Yeah, that one's the best.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man. Now I'm just in my head thinking of Kid Loki ordering bacon buddies. I was just thinking about that for a while.
But yeah, so on one hand, like that issue is just simple. It's just a double date and these like power dynamics, and you learning that Gwen has this really insightful mind, but slightly devious when she talks about like moving money around and those kind of things. And it's Harry dropping, they had like great power, great responsibility.
Yes.
And even like the art, it's really simple. It's a lot of like old school kind of grid comic books, but then the characters start breaking out of it. And that's kind of this microcosm for that issue in the series, that it seems simple, but you can see that these neat boxes that are being placed before us are starting to deteriorate, and it's getting messier and messier. And I think that's where it kind of hinges. And then with 5 and 6, it just all kind of falls apart.
Yeah. Before we get there, I need to touch on real quick Mary Jane. Naming the new venture between Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson as The Paper.
The Paper. Can we talk about The Paper and Uncle Ben? Which, it's nice that we get to see him for more than 3 panels.
Yes.
And that relationship is wonderful. The banter is awesome. J. Jonah Jameson being like this caring, actually, he's almost this uncle-like figure to Peter. And it's great, too, because it starts with him screaming, Parker, Parker, and he's like, there's J. Jonah Jameson, just to Peter, but he's actually talking about Ben, who's alive. Not the gut punch that Aunt May is the one that's dead, but
right.
I love all that, and I'm curious where they go with it.
And issue 5, when you discover that neither of Peter's kids trust Jonah.
Like, when's he leaving? Oh, can I also, in 5, it had my favorite here, this panel that you can see.
Yeah.
So 5, it starts with Norman talking to his son, Harry, and Harry's late, and Norman's just guilt tripping him. And you're starting to get these seeds of like why Harry's so kind of screwed up. And so Norman says to his son, do you know what my favorite memory of you is? And Harry says, like, yeah, that time that we played catch. And Norman says, no, that's you, the little boy talking. And that's memory. It's the memory of a child. My favorite memory of you is the day you finally started acting like a man, like an Osborn, which already is kind of a gut punch.
Yeah.
And then the problem is it hasn't happened yet. And then, he gets blown to smithereens just like a panel or 2 later.
Small tangent. Small tangent. I was trying to remember what thing in recent media that reminded me of. And it's a scene from Megalopolis.
You told me to watch that. I'm not going to lie. That's probably not going to happen. But go on. Enlighten me.
No, because there's a scene there where late in the movie, this is somewhat Megalopolis spoiler. So you get I forget the name, Shia LaBeouf's character, and I
didn't know he was in.
He's in this movie. He's actually really good in this movie, really? Just because he's just unhinged. He's just giant unhinged in the movie, and he's like the left out child of the Crassus Empire, and he wants to ascend and take the money. But he finally gets influenced to try to get to do better position himself to get the money by his new aunt, who is Wow Platinum, played by Aubrey Plaza, who married John Voight, who is the head of the Crassus family. Anyway, and so he's in the head of the Crassus family, Shia LaBeouf, are in the steam room, and he's like, I want to take a step to to be part of the Empire. And Dad looks at him and said, it's good for you to take a step, but you still need to cut your hair and do something like that. And it's along those lines. He just keeps waiting for him to grow up and stop being a giant child about it. Anyway. It was a very unhinged. The entire movie is unhinged. Go see it. Yeah,
sure. You're selling it.
Yes.
So, what do you think? Is there a chance of redemption for Harry, or is there enough damage in his backstory and just anger? So, essentially, the setup. Tony Stark, or let me say this. So, the Maker was preventing superheroes from coming to existence, from blocking them from getting their power or tech or whatever it might have been. And then Tony is kind of trying to one by one get them their power back. So that's how, Peter gets that little thing. He has the choice whether he wants to accept it and become Spider-Man, whereas Harry just kind of inherits it as a Nepo baby.
Yeah.
He has to stumble upon it and break through and all those kind of things, but he steals it where it was freely given to the other kind of characters.
Yeah, but like for Harry, that's always been the way for him. Like it's always like he's always followed after his dad for better or worse.
Yeah.
Hot take, I've never actually had any beef with Harry. Like I've always understood him as a character. That doesn't mean I always
with Nepo babies. That's like on the record. You're very
sure. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like I don't think I've always agreed with Harry, but it's always like I understand why you're doing this.
Yeah,
it kind of sucks, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and they always toy. There's a million different versions. Spider-Man, just can you redeem Harry, or is he just going to go crazy and all this? And they're definitely hinting that like there is a schism between them philosophically, him and Peter. But one of the cool things about the Ultimate line is that you can tinker with things. You can keep Uncle Ben alive, So there could be a chance, in theory, for Harry's redemption. I don't think it will happen.
This is also like I was just laughing about this because it's always the same question that's given to Eddie Brock. Can you redeem Eddie Brock?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, partially that's comics. Excuse me. That everyone is a hero and villain, especially like my love is with X-Men, and everybody's been, on either side of that divide.
Yeah.
Spider-Man doesn't tend to jump around quite as much. So I don't know, I'm curious what they do there. What else are you looking forward to in future issues?
I don't know. I'm really excited to see like how the rest of New York has developed, because we've only seen, I don't know, like when I say villains, I mean like one like active day-to-day villain. Like Kingpin is usually like a shadow guy. Like Kingpin's a boss.
Yeah.
And Bullseye showed up working for Kingpin.
Right.
And he's gone. And so like we've only really seen Shocker.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just out here like, is Rhino around? Is Vulture around?
Yeah.
Like, which one of these?
Otto, are they going to set up a Sinister Six kind of thing? That's always classic,
interesting.
Yeah. Good question. Because I will say, I feel like Spider-Man and Batman have the best rogues gallery in all of comics on either end. So there's just so much to play with there. But also I appreciate, that's the thing about Hickman is that he plots and that everything seeds are planted well ahead of time. So I appreciate him taking his time and being methodical about this. But that said, sometimes like he also published this run Gods, and that didn't hit as well for me. It was just a little bit too opaque. And even like the Secret Wars, just sometimes with Hickman, there's just these layers upon layers upon layers that make it not quite as accessible. But this is tremendously accessible. Like I can still see the seeds that he's planted, but it's just entertaining and engaging on an issue to issue basis.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful.
And what's fun about this is that like this is really good entry level Spider-Man. Like if you have never read Spider-Man before, it's like it's really good for the people like for you and I who have a little backstory and background on Spider-Man and the story of him and Harry and Mary Jane and all of that. But if you're new to it, you get a taste of all of these characters, because a lot of it is callback. So you get a taste of all of these characters, and then if you decide that you want to read into the backstory, you get a chance to read what built these characters and why this run is as different as it is.
Yeah, well put. Are there any other, who else that we haven't seen yet? So at the time, again, us being 3 months back, we have the Ultimate Black Panther, X-Men. There was the kind of Ultimate Invasion, which was getting to more of the Maker stuff, and then Spider-Man. What other characters would you like to see in this universe?
Oh man, in this specific universe, I don't know. Like, I would love to see more of the Avengers show up, although I guess like they're kind of been...
They've always been called the Ultimates, and I do think that there isn't the Ultimates line that is coming in front of us. I try not to read ahead too much, so that's coming. And they did that with the original kind of like Ultimate Spider-Man, the Bendis kind of era one. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're getting some version of that.
Because like I think I talked about it during the start of this episode. I've always had a soft spot for Clint Barton. And if it's not Clint, I'd love to see.
You do look great in purple.
Yes,
so that's fair.
Yeah, and if it's not Clint, I'd love to see Kate Bishop. As Hawkeye. Daredevil.
Yeah, that was my answer. I love Daredevil. He works on the grounded level. I really enjoyed the original Ultimate when Daredevil would show up. I think I'm remembering that correctly. But yeah, Daredevil.
Yeah, and honestly, like I just thought about the fact of like we have in New York that doesn't have a hero. What is Daredevil doing?
I think he's a lawyer.
Yeah,
he's fighting crime his own way. Yeah. Maybe a priest. Who knows? But yeah, Daredevil would be cool. I'm curious if they do Fantastic Four, and that's what Hickman wrote Fantastic Four for years before doing the Secret Wars. I'm curious how they pull that in. I don't know, but it's fun. It's just neat to have this little sandbox that, like you said, you can dip your toes into it. Because I do read a decent amount of comics, but still, it's just this drop in the ocean in terms of it. Like I stay on top of the X-Men by and large, and even that's pretty tricky. But it's nice, this little universe where I can kind of read everything that is coming out until, 4 years from now, that becomes just as complicated. They have to reset with the third Secret Wars.
Yeah. I just thought about like how many potential heroes that could be in this. And then I also just thought about that, like, it cannot be sustainable for every hero to be in New York City.
Yeah. Again, give me the Raleigh. Character.
Like, it just can't be sustainable.
Yeah. And I mean, if you are like a apprentice villain, like why wouldn't you go to like Newark instead? Yeah, I guess Miss Marvel's in Jersey City, so she's not too far. But yeah, to a different city to do your crime
run.
Yeah. Eve Ewing it hasn't popped up on Unlimited yet, but one of the X-Men from the Ashes ones is going to take place in Chicago. I think Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost are going to be at the forefront of that one.
Cool.
And she's a great writer, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. I want to see some neon green relish on these pages.
So gross. Okay, some Malort.
Yeah.
Come on, Eve. She's from Chicago.
For the masses.
It was
delicious with the old style.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other thoughts on Ultimate Spider-Man 1 through 6 by Jonathan Hickman, Marco Checchetto?
Something that we talked about briefly off air, and something I know that you specifically would relate very much to. The father-daughter relationship.
May and her. Yeah, the little secret, for those first few issues just between them. Yeah, that was heartwarming.
The scene of her helping him make the outfit.
Yes. Oh, and that was cool too, because you got like the black suit one. You got the Ben Reilly weird looking kind of thing. That was I love that. Yeah.
It was beautiful fan service. It was like, I said red. Oh, that's too much red. What about this one?
Yeah, and they did the like 2099 or something, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, those are all lovely. Okay, that's Ultimate Spider-Man. What topic are we doing next month? What should people start engaging with?
All right, so we're here at the end of October as we're recording this, going into the spooky season. If you haven't been able to tell yet, we usually trade back and forth on selecting what we're going to do. And so with it being my turn, thought, something that's spooky themed, and I thought that we could talk about a villain, a nemesis so foul, a man that is so hated by Maxwell Sheffield on The Nanny, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
The Nanny reference.
Yes.
Nice.
No. Not Andrew Lloyd Webber himself, but one of his creations, which turned into one of the longest running Broadway shows, Phantom of the Opera.
Yes. I like it. I'm excited. I've never watched or really even listen to more than just that one song. So I'm excited. So I'm gonna I'm gonna dive in.
Yes.
And y'all should do the same.